Hello, hello, hello. You might have seen this on NBC News, and I'm just getting to it. But however, a man was arrested on live TV. There was this live reality show uh, on cable TV, and it's called Reels on Patrol, and it's live, and it's on TV. And this father is being charged with, I believe, neglect because his toddler was seen in a hallway, in an apartment complex hallway, roaming the hallway with a gun. And that gun was actually a real gun, and it was loaded. And so the Indiana police, they arrested the man because the neighbors reported this, that the toddler was roaming the hallway with an actual gun. So it was on Reels on Patrol. If you follow that show and you subscribe to cable TV, the Beach Grove police, they answered and called about the boy clad only in a diaper. So he was in the hallway with only a diaper on. You could tell they blotted it out as much as they could, but the little boy, you could tell he had no shirt on. He was just with a diaper on. He had a gun in his hand, and it was actually a real gun. And when the police got there to investigate and search for the gun, they asked the little boy where was the gun. And he was talking very well, and he told them, was basically telling them, pointing where it was. They got to searching the apartment for the gun, and they found it. And when they found the gun, it was actually loaded. And so they did go ahead and take the father in, but he says that the gun was not his. So basically, the father was not being a good supervisor when it comes to his child. He was not, uh, you know, supervising his child. So the child was walking around unsupervised and pointing a firearm, just out here roaming and pointing this firearm and waving it. And so the officers, they spoke to the neighbor who called the police, and that's what they usually will do. If they need additional information, they usually will follow up with the person that made the 911 call or phone call to the police dispatch department, and then to the boy's father, Shane Osborne, who is 45 years of age. Now, this is not a young man. He's almost going to be 50. In 5 years, he will be 50, and he's up here. This is not good. I mean, it's not like you, a 20-year-old, and I'm not saying, or a 22-year-old, and I'm not saying that, even 20-year-olds, this would be acceptable. But we're talking about a 45-year-old father who is not supervising his toddler child, and the child is out here with a real gun, waving it around in an apartment complex. Do you know how that could have went? Do you know how deadly that could have been? Do you know what this devastation could have caused for this young child with a gun, waving it around? And that's just crazy. That's real crazy. Um, Now, the father said there was no gun in the apartment. When you look at the video, that there was no gun in the apartment, but there was a gun in that apartment. They did find it. And so the 4 responding police officers were about to leave the building when another neighbor approached them and shared video. So see, that's a good thing that the neighbors were looking out and watching, and that's a good thing that the community came together. This is a thing where people always say, people shouldn't snitch, but in this case, this was a good thing to report. When you see something, say something, because this could have turned deadly, and it could have been just so bad for a lot of people in that apartment complex, and it really could, and even including the toddler that had the firearm. So it's good that the neighbor approached the officers and shared the video shot from her doorbell camera, because she had a doorbell camera of the gun-toting boy in a diaper. And this was all online. So it's good that the neighbor came out and said something, because a lot of times people don't want to get involved. They don't want to say anything because they're like, well, they're going to lose custody of their children or their child. I don't really want to get in it. They're this, they're that, they're my neighbor. But guess what? That could have turned deadly for a lot of people. So really, some things we do need to speak up on, regardless of, we got to look at humanity. We got to look at the big picture. We got to take our emotions out of it and see it for what it really is. No toddler or any child or really anybody should be roaming a hallway with a gun, and this is a real gun. This was no toy gun. It was a real gun. And when they, located the gun, it was actually loaded. So Sean Sticks Larkin, who is a retired Tulsa, Oklahoma police sergeant, said that's absolutely tough to see. And it is for anyone watching, the news or the video. That's pretty tough to see of a child running around with a gun. And no matter what they're teaching this child, because the child had the gun, he's roaming around waving it, and it's loaded. So what is this family or the father teaching this child or not teaching the child? And definitely not safety. There was nothing that this father had taught this toddler, obviously. It's just reckless. This is endangerment. And it put a lot of other families that reside, or people that reside in that apartment complex, at risk. And so this father is probably going to be facing some jail time. And he's more than likely going to lose custody of his child, because this is really, really grievous. It just really is bad to see this. And so he went on, Sean Sticks Larkin went on to say, you could see the kid was clearly pulling the trigger. Had it been chambered, loaded, it could have been a horrific situation. But when the officers got the gun, they said it was loaded. So I don't know if there was a lock on it, what was going on. But they said, but he's saying just by looking at it, that's what was going on. So, but the officer immediately went back to Osborne's apartment and eventually found a 9mm Smith & Wesson in a closed roll top desk, according to the Real Show. So it was just in a desk where the toddler can easily roll the top up. Anybody can lift the roll top desk up. I used to own a roll top desk years ago, like decades ago. But anybody can lift up a roll top desk and get into it. Children, toddlers, they get into a lot of stuff. Even babies that are crawling around. That's why you have to put locks on things and definitely supervise your children and little ones, because they get into so much stuff. You see even little toddlers crawling around on the floor, 8, 9 months old, and they can open up a cabinet, be in the cabinet looking at stuff, taking out things, playing with things, pots, pans, whatever. It's just something that as parents, it's a lot of work, but we have to do the work when we choose to procreate. We have to do the work. And that means raising our children in a safe environment, being attentive, and supervising. We can't sit there and say, I'm tired of being a parent. I'm tired of supervising. I want to watch the game. I want to watch wrestling. I want to watch basketball, football. I want to watch, whatever. I want to play video games. I just want to watch a good movie. I'm just tired. I just need a break. It's no break when you're a parent. You have to always be on guard, always watching your children, always being a good supervisor, in supervision of your children. And you cannot have guns that are unlocked, that they have to be in a safe case, locked up, unloaded, with a chamber lock and all of that other stuff on, locked on the gun. It can't just be a gun in a locked case or cabinet, but it has to be when it's in that locked case or cabinet, it has to have some type of lock on the actual chamber or whatever. I don't know all the terminology of a gun, forgive me, but it has to have some type of lock on it, as well as, as well as the, as it being locked up and away from children. And children should never see where you put a gun. They should never have access and be in eyesight where they can actually see or even hear you discussing where this gun is going to be. It's just so sad to see this. But you know what? It's a good thing that the neighbors stepped up and spoke up. They called it in. They saw something. They said something. And it's a good thing they called it in. And it's a good thing that the neighbor, once they were seeing, they were probably watching, and there was due diligence, and they saw that the officers were leaving without the man, without arresting the father. And so the neighbor said, no, let me show you. I want to show you on my Ring camera, on my video. I want to show you that this toddler really did have a gun. And now that the toddler is in the house, where is the gun? You need to go back and you need to question. You need to do a search. You need to do something. And, you know, I don't know everything that was said, but I'm just saying, you know, that conversation, something took place where the officers went back to the apartment and they actually located a loaded gun. Now, another live analyst, Curtis Wilson, a Richland County, South Carolina sheriff deputy, said he doubts the child randomly put the gun in the desk. The way that it was placed in this dresser, the way it was actually strategically placed, in there and the top down, it's unlikely that a little kid was able to do that, he said. Osborne was booked on suspicion of felony neglect of a dependent and providing a firearm to a child, according to court records. His first court appearance is set for the Thursday afternoon, or according to the Marion County's prosecutor's office. Before the firearm was found, Osborne had told cameras he can't own any guns as an ex-convict. So he is probably facing jail time, because guess what? If he can't own a gun because he's an ex-convict, he had a gun in his presence, even if it wasn't his gun, because he stated it wasn't his gun, but it was still around. It was in his presence. It was in the apartment that he was staying in, or his apartment. So regardless whether he can't have one, he was around it. He had access to the gun. The toddler got a hold of it. And so that gun was hurried up and quickly placed in a roll top desk instead of being locked up somewhere, because it's not his gun, as he stated, and it could be a possibility that it's not his gun. But the fact is that if he can't have a gun and he's an ex-convict, then that just says it all right there, because you are around a gun and you're not even supposed to be around guns. If somebody you know that you're living with has a gun, you have to talk with your parole officer and say, hey, you know, I'm living with someone that has a gun. What should I do? I mean, you know, this is the only place I have to live. You got to handle things legally and appropriately and in decent and in order, because you seem like you just didn't do that. And now you probably are going to be headed back to prison as an ex-convict if you did serve jail time. And it sounds like he might have. And actually, he did serve jail time. So therefore, he's probably going to be headed back to prison. I mean, it just makes no sense. But it says that Osborne served 13 months in prison for theft and forgery cases dating to 2012 and 2013. Respectfully, a state corrections department representative said it wasn't immediately clear Tuesday whether Osborne had hired or been assigned an attorney. A call to his cell phone went to voicemail. The arrest came a little more than a week after a 6-year-old Virginia boy, and you remember that, fired on his first grade teacher, and she was in the hospital, you know, after he took a gun to school that was in his backpack. And so Larkin said the Indiana incident could easily have ended in tragedy, which it could have very well been. And there's a point that he's holding it up, and it's literally, it almost looks like he's pointing up toward his own face, he said. Now, that could have ended deadly for this young toddler if he had pulled the trigger and shot his brains out or his head off. This is so sad. So Larkin added, we hear these types of stories where kids come across, find these firearms, these horrific results that do happen sometimes, but seeing it on video is definitely very different. So you guys leave your comments below. Tell me what you think about this. You know, do you think this man is going to get jail time? Do you think he's going to go back and serve some more jail time? He's going to definitely probably lose custody of the child. I haven't got any updated videos on if there's a mother involved and if, you know, and anything like that. So if I do, I'll bring back, you know, and give you some updates as the story unfolds with this whole situation. Now, I'm not subscribed to that particular cable channel, Reels or whatnot, so I haven't seen it before, but I have seen other, you know, reality TV, police TV shows and things like that are live. But in this case, I had not. So if anyone watches that show, please leave your comments, respectful comments below. Let me know what you think about this and what your respectful, you know, smart thoughts are on this. God bless you all on today. Have a beautiful day.